2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us. How do men and women experience shame differently?
Welcome to the Real Talk Recovery Podcast with the Therapy Brothers.
We're brothers, we're therapists, and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey, Tyler, before we get into that, I have a review. And we've been getting a lot of reviews lately, which are the highlight of my week. So I love it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Such kind words. Really appreciate it. And this one says, solid resource. I look forward to the new episodes each week. This podcast has been foundational in helping me and my spouse navigate our personal and relationship healing. The truths and light shared in this podcast are so appreciated. So grateful for these brothers and their work.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. And the drawing, I guess, will be long past for the Radiant Dawn, but this one will be in the drawing to get a voucher to the Radiant Dawn. So that's awesome.
Yeah, seriously, we really appreciated all of your feedback and all of the ways that it's come to us. So thank you guys for sharing when you have things on your mind.
Yeah. Well, Tyler, do you want to dive right in?
Let's go. Let's start talking about shame today. I think you and I decided to kind of talk about this because we were actually thinking about the upcoming Radiant Dawn conference and how we do some things differently in the women's conference than in the men's conference. And then when that kind of led to a little bit of a discussion on shame and some of the ways that shame seems to show up for men versus women. And again, this isn't all hard and fast, but it got us on a discussion about some of Brene Brown's work. And so we thought we'd outline some of her work and then have our own opinions and thoughts about how shame works in the lives of men and women.
Right. I mean, we're all individuals, so we all experience life differently and uniquely. But men are different than women. And in our culture and in the world that we live, men and women experience things very differently, such as sexuality and shame and those type of things. And so Brene Brown, she talks about how let's talk about women first, Tyler, if that's okay. Mm-hmm. How women's shame is very much like a web where basically they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. On one hand, they're told to be a strong woman who has her career and knows who she is and goes out and does that. On the other, they're told to be a mother and be grateful that they can just be a mother and just be in the home and be grateful that they're nurturing and in the home and those type of things, right? And so if I go get a job, then I'm being a bad mother. If I'm just sitting around being a mother, then I should be doing so much more with my life, right? On one hand, be content with your body and love who you are, and on the other hand, as long as you look this way, as
long as
you
you're
fall into
sexy and thin and
this perfect mold, then love who you are. But you really should just love who you are, no matter who you are. But and these mixed messages are just everywhere for a woman, and it ultimately leads to not enoughness. Like, I just cannot add up to everything, and if I shift this here, then I neglect that there, and there's no way I can ever get there.
That's right. You could take like any topic in our world. I think Brene Brown has 12 different categories. She goes through things like body image, faith, motherhood,
sexuality,
parenting, sexuality, all of these
spirituality,
things, spirituality, all of that, all of those different areas. And the way that it becomes so insidious with the way shame works is that because of the nature of the web you just described, at two ends of each thread of the web, so to speak, there's an ideal, right? Yeah. It's like, as a mother, I need to be loving and kind and this and that and the other, but I also need to teach my kids boundary, and I need to be firm. And what we do and what women do, according to Brene Brown, is that they'll go and find the ideal at each end of the thread and feel like they have to meet both of the ideals, rather than seeing it for what it is and saying, okay, well, I fall somewhere along the line between the two, and it's okay for me to be on the spot that I'm at in the thread, rather than trying to have to do both, because they get overloaded and they can't do both. They can't be both. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just gets exasperating. And then either way, they feel like they're not enough.
Well, Tyler, what are the kind of overarching messages for women about their value? Like, in our culture, what messages are sent to a woman about, what makes her valuable?
Yeah. I mean, we could look at the obvious ones first, right? One, and here's maybe part of the web. Let's just contrast both of these things. You've got a feminist movement that says you need to be at the extreme end of the feminist movement, let's say, not in the middle part, but you need to be masculine. You need to be a provider. You need to be strong.
Just like a man.
You need to be just like a man, just as strong as they are. And then you have in our culture the other side of this, which is, no, really, like, the currency of who you are really depends on the way you look. Do you look beautiful? Do you look sexy? Do you have the right BMI? Like, all of that stuff, right?
I think Tyler, I think we as men sometimes have a hard time understanding how intense that is for women.
Oh man, I can only imagine the pressure that's on there. As I watch, I'm a father of 4 daughters, and I've got my wife in my life too, and then obviously all of our clients. And it feels to me from an outside perspective, and I can only imagine what it's like, the press that is constantly there, that's always there for so many women in these messages that they're being sent, probably with good intentions some of the time, but just without the ability to fully like achieve that full like potential,
Yeah. My value is so connected to how desirable I feel like I am as a sexual being, right? It's like, or just physically desirable I am. Like, yeah, it's just so sent to women, that message is.
Yeah, it is. And then it's contrasted up against but just love yourself exactly who you are, right? It's like I play a music video in my women's group sometimes by that Try song by Colby Calais, right? And on one hand, it's like
to try so hard. That's becoming cliche, Tyler. But,
yeah, well, exactly. But the interesting thing,
do you have them all take their makeup off as they listen to
I
it?
bring makeup wipes to group and stuff. No, but that the point that I try to make with that is that on one hand, that message is so beautiful, and she's actually trying to depict that message so beautifully. But even in the context of the video itself, after she takes off all her makeup, it's still perfect lighting. It's still like filtered just the right way. So,
oh yeah.
you know, it's
been
like
the video has been edited.
Even the video has been curated in order to fit whatever the standards are of the day.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and it's like this message that is so hard to escape from all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here, I got another one here. Just as a mom, you know, I think of, let's say, a mom of 4 or 5 or 3 or whatever, and it's like you're having guests over for dinner. You know, how do you feel? It's like, okay, the kids are currently trashing the house because that's all kids ever do. They say that trying to keep your house clean with a bunch of kids in it is like eating an Oreo while you brush your teeth. And so like that's what's going on. But at the same time, you know, if you're valuable, then you should have everything nicely looking and perfectly in place when the guests come over with a hot meal on the table, right? Like, come hang out at our beautiful house that's always clean because, you know, do you see the messages there?
Yeah.
So on one hand, accept that you're a mom and like kids are going to trash the house. On the other hand, you better have everything in order and show the outside world that this all looks okay inside.
You got it under control and everything's pristine and perfect. And then also, you're probably also working a full-time job now because that's what you also do as a woman too in your independence. So you're a great mom. You have everything under control. The kids are trashing the house, but somehow you've kept it all clean. And the kids, when they show up, when the guests show up, are actually well behaved and orderly. All of that stuff comes together. You start to, I mean, as we're talking, Brannon, you can almost feel yourself sinking towards the middle of this web and going, oh my gosh, like if I'm setting the standards for my value as a person against any of this stuff, I'm in a no-win situation.
You're going to fail.
Right.
You're going to suck at having it all be perfect.
Yep.
I know some women who really work hard to have it all perfect. You know, they go to the gym every day. They have a house that's really clean. They have their kids, you know, going to all the sports and this and that. And they're just like, everything is just in place. Right. And some of my clients, I think about, even them who work so extremely hard feel a void inside. They feel an emptiness of, no matter how perfect I get it, no matter how hard I work, I still don't love my life. Like, this isn't awesome. I'm tired. I'm worn out. I'm not happy. Because all I'm doing is trying so hard to be everything that I'm told that I should be in order to be enough.
Yeah. And I think Brannon, where you bring this to is that the issue isn't with going and wanting to have a clean house or go to the gym and be in good shape or whatever, eat healthy or whatever else. It's in the measurement of my value against the ideals that everything around us says. And that's the place where most of us succumb to this like feeling of shame that wants to drive the world. Like I think the currency of this world is shame. And the way that you learn to break that is that you have to learn to change the rules of the game that you're playing in by changing the way you see what you're doing. Right. So if I want to have a clean house and I want to be in great shape and I do all of this stuff and I go and I do that every day and I do what you would call, I do my best. If you do your best because for the sake of doing your best, then you can win even in the world that we live in, because the measuring stick is me being congruent with who I want to be rather than me trying to live up to all the shoulds that I've been told.
Yeah. I love that phrase, being congruent with who I want to be. And I would change it just a little bit. I'd say being congruent with who I already am and who God has made me to be. And I think all of our suffering goes away when we get in alignment with our purpose, with God. And so, you know, along comes the culture and the world and all this stuff shooting all over women, just like you should. And then, you know, women are like, hey, I'll jump into this mold. I'll do this. I'll jump right into this web. And inevitably the suffering will come. And I guess what we're saying, Tyler, like, I'll ask you, you have 4 girls, right? Are they all the same?
Of course not.
Are they all going to be like perfect, hardworking career woman mothers that raise their children exactly the same way? Like is your youngest going to raise her kids the same way your oldest does?
I'm pretty certain that's not going to be the case.
Because how different they are, right?
They're so different. Yeah.
They're so, and because they're unique souls and unique individuals in there, who are gonna navigate this world differently and give back to the world differently. And so all these boxes that we give to women of like, okay, get in that box, be this certain way. That system does not work.
It doesn't work.
And it never will.
I think the challenge with that too, though, Brannon, is being a parent that way and wanting to raise my daughters. And I don't know that I'm getting it totally right for sure. I've got a lot to learn here, but it's a challenge as a parent of, let's say, of daughters, since we're talking about women right now, to figure out how to teach them the importance. I'll just give you the example of, my daughters all are into like athletics and sports. They like that stuff. They, inside the world that they live in, one of the things where the shame the shame web starts to form is you need to be healthy and strong and have your nutrition, but you also need to be as light as possible, especially when you're a runner, because, so now that if you hear the shame web forming, it's like, how do I lose a ton of weight, but keep up my nutrition? Right. Mm-hmm. And what's that prone to cause? It's prone to cause questions about body image. It's if they're not careful, they're going to value themselves in terms of how skinny they are, or like, I just had a text message come through on one of my daughter's phones just a couple of weeks ago. And she was texting back, said, "What are you texting about?" She said, "Oh, me and my friends are in a weight loss challenge." I'm like, weight loss challenge? Why? Like, she's like, "Yeah, we're all trying to hit 100 pounds. Whoa. And I was like, we need to talk. Like, yeah, like we need to talk here. Like that's the recipe for not liking myself because I'm measuring myself by a certain weight. But on the other side, as a father, I need to somehow teach my daughter the principle of taking good care of themselves and their body and proper nutrition and healthy exercise. Like, and so where we try to go is over the principles of those things and then let our daughters make their choices rather than the measuring stick of certain weight to hit or a certain,
But that, see, you're illustrating the culture, right? It's so funny. We go by weight so much when everybody's a different height. And everybody's body is built somewhat differently, but it's like, well, if I get down to a certain weight, well, that and that's just the cultural crap, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you look at, hey, I want to be healthy, you're looking at much different things than your weight. Weight is one little piece of that, but like there's all different other things. How do you feel? What are your energy levels like? How much sleep are you getting? Like,
how well do you perform in your physical and mental activities?
Yeah. And do you, when you take care of yourself, or do you feel like you're loving yourself, or are you trying to change yourself because you're not good enough? Right.
Yeah.
I was talking to my daughter, Lacey, and I said something like, what I said, why do I love you so much? And she gave me the best answer. She said, because I'm Lacey. And I love that answer.
That's a great answer.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what we got to look at more so in our life is get beyond all of this shitty crap to then tell us who we are, and to actually say, you know what, like I'm going to get to know me like I get to know somebody else. And I'm going to see the beauty and the humanity and the brilliance of who I am. And wow, I'm going to be in awe at who I am. And that might sound a little conceited, but you understand my point, right,
I know
Tyler?
where you're going. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Because if we try to get to know us by becoming what we should be, you'll never get to know you.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And I think you're kind of getting to the part of the answer to the question of how do I become shame resilient? And one of the answers to that question is exactly what you're saying, that when I start to transition from a measuring stick that operates from the inside out with a higher power, I begin to develop resiliency that I otherwise wouldn't have if my measuring stick is always being dictated to me by the society of the world that I live in order to be good enough.
Okay. That was really profound. Dumb it down, take out like a bunch of the therapy speak there.
Basically,
Try saying it again.
Okay. Shame resiliency happens when I'm living the life God designed me for because I'm in touch with God and who he says I am. And I'm letting go of the expectations that the world and other people put on me.
Yeah. So the inside out versus the outside in.
Mm-hmm.
What you're talking about is the inside out is like knowing who I am, knowing that I'm loved, trusting myself, right? That's like the inside out, right? I see myself. It's everything I was just talking about.
I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. I know my likes. I know my interests. I know my personality. And I'm okay with living the best life with those things as a reality.
Then I get to radiate my light out to the world, right?
That's
because
right.
from within that, I'm resonating in love. Versus, and so explain the outside in. What's the outside in?
Outside in is all those pressures we've talked about earlier, what we're afraid people might see in us, or the message we got on TV, or the music that we listen to, or the society that we go to, or any pressure to perform for another person, because that's what you should do to be a good person, is worth questioning as to whether or not that's good for you to pursue.
Okay. So I want to ask you, Tyler. So let's say for 40 years, I've been doing outside in work where it's like I've listened to a lot of the voices. I've taken on a lot of the shoulds. How am I supposed to all of a sudden start shifting into this inside out?
I think you gave the answer a few minutes ago for at least one part of this, which is that every one of our listeners right now can think of the last time they felt like they should do something from being pressed from someone else. And all they have to do is think about the emotion that comes up with that, and then follow what you said, which is to identify that as potential shame, acknowledge that it's there, and then apply the principles of self-compassion.
Okay. How do you apply those principles of self-compassion?
There's 3 parts to self-compassion that, this has been really researched by a lady named Kristen Neff, N-E-F-F. Basically, you have to become mindful of what you're experiencing. That's part 1, which is identifying it, allowing yourself to acknowledge it.
So you're talking about like if you're going through the shame, right? Like, I'm experiencing.
It's like, oh man. So I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, I've got this pit in my stomach and I'm feeling like closed off and I'm having the shoulds run through my brain.
I went to the beach at Hawaii and there's that woman in the bikini and she's triggering me, showing me everything that I'm not.
I'm noticing that now. Okay, that is my shame. I've identified it. Then I move to the second part, which is common humanity. I need to remind myself that the shame I'm feeling is part of the human experience, that everybody feels this from time to time, because shame insulates and isolates. It wants us to be on our own.
Yeah.
And now it's like, no, you know what? There's a million, if not billions of people right now that are having a similar experience to what I'm experiencing, because this is human. Everybody experiences it. Mm-hmm. And then the third part is the self-compassion part, which is what you were saying. Treat yourself as if you were talking to your best friend. Mm-hmm. And say, you know what? Like, yeah, I'm experiencing this. This is part of being human. The truth is that I'm a good person. I'm a work in progress. I don't have to be these things unless those are important between me and God.
I'm amazing.
I'm amazing. I'm really
beautiful.
Good at these things. I love myself, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then you practice that, and you can practice that 100 times a day if need be. But the more you do, the more you rewire the way you actually believe it.
Okay, I want to drive this home, Tyler, because I love this. So let's say I go home and my kid mouths off to me and I just feel like, man, as a parent, I'm failing all the time. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's like the pit in my stomach or whatever, right? That comes up for me. So at first I would acknowledge I feel like I'm a failure.
Yeah. You might do something you regret first and yell at your kid or do something else. And then
Yeah. So
afterwards,
let's say I go do something stupid and then I'm feeling even worse because I handled it so poorly.
yeah.
Right. I'm a bad dad. My kids are all going to be so messed up. I got all this fear going on. I got all this shame.
Yeah.
So I acknowledge like, oh, I'm feeling a lot of fear.
I'm caught in my fear. I'm caught in my shame.
I'm catastrophizing this.
I don't like this.
Yeah. Okay. So I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Then
the second part is what? Common humanity.
Oh, I'm not the only one that feels like a failure as a parent. I'm not the only one who's done stupid things as a parent and screwed up before. I know my brother Tyler does that all the time.
Yeah, I've seen Tyler do that.
I've seen Tyler do that. Tyler told me a story about how he screwed up as a dad, and that it was kind of funny, but also a little disturbing.
Yeah.
No, but the principle is like, hey, Tyler's been there. Other people, like, yeah, this is human. And then the last
part is the common humanity. Treat yourself like you would your best friend if they called you and told you the same thing.
Yeah, and I'd be like, you're good. You're okay.
Dude, it's all right, man. He made a mistake. Everyone does once in a while.
Your kids are lucky to have you.
Yeah.
Because they are, like your kids are lucky to have you and you're an awesome dad.
Yeah.
So, okay. Awesome. I'm feeling good right now, Tyler, just kind of pseudo walking through that. So.
Yeah, it's a good exercise. And it's something that with practice becomes more second nature. And it also can really start to turn the tides on that shame that we feel. Because it's doing a couple of things. It's connecting us to our true values. It's also, in a weird way, allowing us to be connected to other people, even though we're not talking to someone else, but we're reminding ourselves of the humanity part of it. And those things are they're like dousing water on the flame of shame when you can get those things. And same with mindfulness, critical awareness, understanding like how we actually process it. All three of those things are ways to help inoculate ourselves from the effects of shame.
Tyler, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
So what's your take? What's your on some exposure therapy with shame resiliency? So I'm thinking about, like, let's come back. Let's talk about women because we've been talking mostly about women and their shame here. Kind of acting opposite to your shame and putting yourself out there. So sometimes like holding a boundary can be really hard because you feel like I'm not worth it and I'm not supposed to be assertive as a woman because then I'm just looked at as a bitch or like a bad person or whatever, right? So I'm just going to shut up and or like body image stuff, right? Like, hey, I'm going to walk on that beach. I'm going to put my swimsuit on and walk down the beach. And although I'm feeling inadequate and not enough, I'm going to love my body and feel the sun on my body and feel good as I do that. What's your take on that?
Yeah, actually, I think that we preach this in the podcast all the time, Brannon, on that act opposite to emotion. When the facts don't line up with the emotion that I'm feeling, one of the skills we teach is to act opposite to that emotion. So if the facts are lining up that you're worthy and valuable, and yet you're holding yourself back from something because of the shame that you feel, then the act opposite skill is a good skill to use. What I would say with that is that it works even better if you have a landing space with people who are going to reinforce the truth.
Yeah.
So I'll give you like an example of like this, and maybe we should transition over to men here to talk about this too, the difference between men and women. But I have a man in my groups has a really hard time with two things: saying sorry and saying I love you. And part of it's because he feels like he's never going to be good enough to the people that he's harmed or that he wants to tell that he loves, right? He needs to go and act opposite, and he needs to learn how to say I'm sorry, and he needs to learn how to say I love you. If he goes and does that to the system he's currently living in, he's probably going to get rejected potentially, right? It doesn't mean that was bad work, but if he also has a built-in system where he can come back to his group of men and go, guys, I took the challenge. I told my wife who I've harmed that I really love her and that I'm seriously really love her and that I'm going to keep working. And she told me she hated my guts and that she thinks I'm being fake and that I'm lying.
That's a fake apology. Your group just told you to do it.
Yeah. But now he can come back to the group and the group will go like, dude,
Good
that
job.
was correct. That was courageous. Like, even though it didn't turn out the way you'd hoped or whatever, of course
we love you.
You'd expect her to give that response because she's hurting, but we still love you and we're proud of you for the work you did. That was awesome. So when you get that reinforcement from a good support system, that's another piece of shame resiliency, is having a good support system.
But it's like that support system is there to just be there as they watch you grow and learn. And so like you go out, you grow and learn, you act opposite to your shame, and you come back, and it's like you can break this down with your support system, and it's like, this is awesome. Like, look at this growth that I'm going through. Look at this change. And they're there to reinforce that you're loved as you go through that.
That's right. I like to kind of like a scaffolding. I'll give you one more story on this with a different one of the guys in the same group. He's got a nickname that they gave him based off of his name. And he has this, like, his shame comes out really weird sometimes, where when he's feeling really bottled up, and we'll talk about men's shame here in a second, he acts out by taking it out on other people who are like less prestigious or powerful positions than him. So he'll go into like, a sandwich shop, and the sandwich isn't perfect, and he'll take it out on the kid behind the counter, like, but then afterwards he's like, oh, I can't believe I just did that. It's like, but then he comes and talks about it in group, and then the group's like, you got to go back to that sandwich shop and you got to tell that kid you're sorry, And so he goes and he does it, and then he comes back, and they like build him up and be like, that was courageous. That was, and they give out his nickname, like, that's you being you. Like, and then you see him just kind of like grow into like, I did, like, that's right. I can be different. Like, I'm growing. He had to go take the actions to do that stuff, but the scaffolding was there to hold everything in place, to kind of give him his shape, right. so he can step into his true authenticity or his true congruency.
Yep. So yeah. And really a lot of the group work that we do, Tyler, has to do with that process of someone overcoming their shame and discovering who they really are. Just like basic boundary work is about, good job. You had to face your fear and your shame in order to do that. And so, and you're showing up in alignment, even though like the world around you is falling apart as a result. Good job. Like, you're doing that. You can do that. And that scaffolding holds as the chaos ensues, because the systems want you to stay stuck in that web of shame. They want you there. And that support will say, nope, come over here and hang out with us outside that web.
That's right. We're trying to not live by those rules anymore. And, I think, Brannon, you said something with the way we run our groups is everybody comes in for betrayal or for addiction or something else. But really what group is it's a shame resiliency group of learning how to live wholeheartedly. I mean, that's really all it ends up becoming, because everything funnels back to shame.
Well, yeah. So, Tyler, maybe the men's one, maybe we do a second part to this and we break down men's shame. Because I think we could definitely spend a full episode there.
I just gave a bunch of examples of men's shame for when we were talking in the context of women. So maybe, I didn't give the best examples there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very different though. And maybe without going too far into the men's, women are very focused on, am I valuable? Am I desirable?
Cherished, chosen.
Am I cherished, chosen, and seen? Men is way more focused on strength. Am I strong enough? Am I good enough to provide? Am I solid enough? And I do not want to be seen as weak.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest fear, is not being seen as weak or not being respected.
Yep. And men are shoved into a box. So we talk about a woman where she's kind of, no matter what she does, she's going to fail.
It's the web.
Men have this box of like, you're supposed to fit into this mold, this system exactly in order to be a good enough man. And if you differ from that in any way, then you're going to have some problems. That's not okay. Yeah. And a thing about it is, Tyler, whether we're talking about men or women, whether it's the web or whether it's the box, like what created the web and what created the box?
It was experience that taught certain beliefs about self.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm asking, Tyler. What I'm saying is like, where did these come from?
Oh, the constructs of things.
Yeah, where did it come from?
Yeah, they come from all sorts of places. They come from our society, they come from our culture, they come from our religion, they come from our past experience. It's and we should take cause to look at what's actually driving our world today. And really, we mentioned this before in the podcast, but if you feel bad about yourself, who wins?
Yeah, and that's a great question right there. So if I feel bad about myself, then somebody does win, and that's why it's happening.
Lots of people are winning because you feel bad about yourself, but it's not you.
Yeah, follow the dollars. Like it really, the advertising, the cultural messages. There's an agenda to these systems where people have reasons, and so
if you just look skinnier, here, buy my product, and it's not just dollar signs, it's also power, right? Yeah. Like who wins if you don't like yourself?
Yep.
Anyone who wants to manipulate you.
Yep. And then think of how much money, Tyler, the industries of like, we can make you rich, we can make you skinny, we can make you healthy in this way or that way. And I'm not saying all those companies and everything's bad. That's not what I'm saying. But
they do use the currency of shame, though.
The way that you sell those problems in a lot of ways is to tell people how broken they are and how not enough they are and how they need this product in order to
then you'll be enough.
To be enough.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. I just wanted to share one more thing kind of along this idea of the boxes versus the webs, just the story that Brene Brown has told many times that I thought was a really good illustration is that, if you were to ask most women what they want from their men in their lives, one of the things that they would say is that I want him to be more open. I want him to be more vulnerable. And that would be true. But then she tells this story about how a man came to her at a book signing and said, how come you only tailor your message to women? And she said, I don't think I do that. He said, no, it's pretty convenient that you do because when I look at my own shame and I look at my relationship with my wife and my daughters would rather me die on my white horse than ever fall off. Meaning that he never would really be able to be vulnerable with the women in his life, because they would see him as weak and as inadequate, and they would rather piece him back together and get him back on the horse than to see him in his vulnerability.
Which is so paradoxical, because a strong man is what?
He knows who he is, so that he can be real and vulnerable without needing the answer to come from his wife.
Yeah. The strong man can negotiate imperfection, can be so vulnerable and sit in that vulnerability. And so but at the same time, the conditioning is stay up on that white horse.
Yeah. I watched this happen inside of my office one time where I was working with a couple, and she was saying, like, he's never expressive. He never shows his emotions. He doesn't let me in all the time. And finally, as we were working one day in our therapy session, some nerve got hit for him, and he sort of like broke down, and he just like started to sob and cry. And then he was like, oh my gosh, I made all these mistakes. I'm so sorry. And the minute he started to do that, her demeanor totally changed. She almost went into like panic mode. Like, no, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Like, she's like trying to piece him back together. And I'm sitting there going like, this is beautiful. He's finally breaking. Like, this is great. Let's let this happen. But she was so not used to having that from him that it almost scared her that he was finally allowing himself to tap into some of those things that have been below the surface for so long. And because it was so different, she was trying to get things to go back to the way things were, even though she just complained about it.
Yep. So you'll sabotage the very thing that you want because it's different. It's uncomfortable. Yeah. So does she want a weak man or a strong man? Deep down, she wants a strong man.
She wants a strong man.
But
she's not used to it.
Yeah.
Because he's been living in shame for so long.
Right.
When he starts to show up and learn how to actually show real strength, it's actually really scary, because for her, there's less control in that, and control feels like safety.
Right.
Yeah. There's vulnerability for both.
Right. Well, and I think that kind of speaks to the hard work, Tyler. A lot of the shame stuff that we're talking about, when you have these systems around you, you think that is the scaffolding, so to speak. And it's like, well, I can't just let go of those things because I've been so conditioned into them and into like trying to find my self-worth there. Yikes. Like if I go from the inside out with it, if I, to try to figure out who I really am, that's scary because I don't know how to do that.
Yep. It's awkward. It's messy. Sometimes I don't even know where to start with it, which again starts with even just simple awareness and then asking some questions and taking some actions based off of those questions.
Right. I agree. This has been a good talk, Tyler.
Yeah, Brannon.
Interesting.
I'm glad we brought
discussion.
it up. Yeah, for sure.
Oh. Yeah. Well, let's kind of end it there. I'm sure we can keep talking about all kinds of angles here with shame and shame resiliency. I think it's good to just talk about things just to illustrate them. And I hope that our audience, as they've listened, they can look inside and say, "Gal, do I participate in this?" And if you're saying you don't, then you're probably lying to yourself because we all do
This
to
is
some
human.
degree.
It's 100% human.
Yeah. And if you're really participating in this hit a nerve of like, oh my gosh, this is my life. This is why I feel so just not good about myself all the time. Then that's good. Like listen to that and then look at this and say, okay, what can I do differently so that I don't live in this shame spiral all the time in my life?
Yeah, great. Yeah, well, thanks, Brannon. And thank you guys who are listening. We appreciate you being here.
All right, we'll see ya.